Wait.
Door shut. Start the stream to the stream. Wait for it to tell me I can go live. Hit the go live button. And we're live here on Facebook. I'd like to welcome those listening in podcast land, and also I'd like to welcome my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mike, and also welcome to those watching us on the Facebook, on not Facebook, YouTube.
By
Lost my
the
train of thought there a little bit.
by the way, I learned something last night. On the Facebook side when we watch, if you ever watch it back on Facebook, how I have that
hmm
pause until I'm waiting
Yeah,
for it to actually know that I'm live. Do you know
yeah.
that there's a name for that?
What's that?
It's the millennial pause.
Huh?
Apparently, it's something millennials do that Xenials think is ridiculous. They're already like they're talking as they hit the button, and they just trust that it went live at that time.
hmm I
I don't
see.
know. It scares me. I thought about trying it this week, but I didn't. Plus, those that are listening in podcast land and those watching on YouTube get the recording, which I start a couple seconds earlier, so they get some bonus bits.
All right, cool, cool.
Okay,
All right, Mike. So how was your week?
we got some big news to share on the show. We'll save it for later, but it's about
Okay.
work and a poll question we did 4 years ago.
It was when you were making that transition, when you were gonna move up to
Yeah, I think that would have
the
been 4 years
Esterville
ago.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has been
Yep. We have an
4 years ago.
official answer to the question. We'll give that to you at the end of
That
the
is
show.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, it's been a good week. Work's been good. Really enjoying it. Really getting to know people better and getting people there. Shout out to the Okoboji Community School District, as we might have some people listening from there. Yeah. So let's get excited about that. Rich,
Mhm.
how was? Uh, my little girl had a pretty big fall this week. She banged her head on the
Ooh,
corner of a chair at church, and she ended up putting about a 1 inch gash on her forehead. She's doing fine. The
good.
the worst part for her was when they. So for little kids, what they do is they put their arms inside a blanket and they wrap it up really tight, and then they have somebody hold you, and they're holding your head straight so you can't like move around, and they just have you like cocooned. That freaked like the whole time in
Hmm.
the we ended up taking her to the hospital just to make sure that she was okay. It was bleeding pretty heavily. Head wounds tend to. It was wide. It was not super deep, but it was big enough that we thought we should probably have it looked at. Worst case scenario, they super glue it, which is what they did, and
Hmm.
sent us on our way. And we made it. We even made it back to church, so it was great. Um,
Good.
but with all that being said, yeah, that was a little crazy. Last weekend was quite crazy. I think I told you about the whole ordeal, but man, it was a crazy weekend. I can let you know after the show about how crazy it ended up going after all. But
Yeah.
uh,
Pretty normal week. Pretty normal week for me. So much, not too much changing hands. So I get to go next door and be a coordinator at a different third-party logistics warehouse for deer. So start that on Monday.
so
So
that became official. I was going to ask you. I knew that you were
yeah.
kind of up for it, and
Yep, I get to move to a different warehouse site just next door, not moving towns or anything, but
increase in wage.
no,
Oh,
just different responsibilities.
okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's still. I mean, you're. It's what you need to do, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, Rich, we got actually a pretty decent show. As much as we don't have a lot of live sports that we're talking about, we probably should get basketball in the mix a little bit more. And we're going to next week, in fact, because we have stuff to talk about. That in our quick hits, along with the NFL Combine and what's your measurements. Rich, what else do we got going on this week?
Well, Mike, like every week, we're going to be going into the NASCAR corner along with Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated to give you the results of the last week's race and give you a prediction for this week's race. And we're going to be talking some baseball as we got spring training is in full effect. And this week's topic will be what we're hoping to see out of our Chicago Cubs for the 2023 season. But Mike, all that and more, but what do we got to do first?
We're going to roll that intro. Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich. And we're back. Okay, Rich. So, this week we had a poll question. Our poll question was, if the house is a rockin' versus Apache, jump on it. First of all, where did you vote?
I went with the House is a Rockin' just with so many memories of watching Steamwheeler football in its heyday when they first were in operations the first time around. Going to those games with a lot of games with my dad, so I gotta go with the House is a Rockin'.
Okay, I am gonna make a phone call.
Oh,
because we are at a tie.
okay.
And you and I are at an impasse.
Got it, because you went with Apache.
I went with Apache. Jump on it. So
is our non-Facebook follower, Mr. Joe Hart, going to be our tiebreaker?
if he answers. Hi, you are on Balls and Sticks, the podcast. We need a vote for our poll question because it is tied 3-3. The poll question is, which do you like better? The House is a Rockin' or Apache, jump on it?
The House is a Rockin'.
The House is a Rockin' wins with 4 votes. Joe Hart, you made it up. Thank you very much. We will talk to you later. Okay, there you go. He picked The House is a Rockin'. So you, Solomon, Debbie Scranton Washburn, and Joe Hart all voted for The House is a Rockin', which means Apache jump on it, loses. Me, your brother, and Tim Flanker all voted for Apache jump on it. Man, bummed that that's the way it went, but we are men of the people. We call in a vote. So I am actually going to change my interaction to...
well, why don't you just make, to Balls and Sticks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'll...
All right, so this...
Balls and Sticks, by way of Joe Hart, voted for The House is a Rockin'. There you go. We now have an answer. There you go, folks. So, back to me on there. Okay.
All right. So this week's poll question, our final wild card, second chance, which will be our 16th song, so we can get back to a Sweet 16 and move on without any no more second chances or bringbacks. It's going to be the Crazy Train against Thunderstruck.
And this, out of all of the like runoffs that we did, this is probably the hardest one for me.
Yeah, I can agree. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to vote on this one. Most of the times because we kind of decided these matchups off air so we could get 16 songs before going forward in like a second round. This was the one that initially was like, yeah, I'm going to go vote for the song that I nominated, but now that I'm seeing it on the paper, I don't know which way I'm going to go.
I don't remember which one I nominated, but
you had Thunderstruck. I put I think I put Crazy Train.
Yeah, I don't either way. I love both of these songs. I don't know which way I'm going to vote. Well, you'll have to tune in next week to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Rich, do you see what's coming up next?
Mike, is it a left turn?
It is, and after that,
Is it another left turn?
yes, it is. Which and why is that?
Mike, because we're going to go into the NASCAR Corner, and the NASCAR Corner is presented by AAA Sports Cards Incorporated. Go down and check them out on Fifth Avenue in Moline for all your sports cards and sports memorabilia needs. And you can also find them on eBay. AAA Sports Cards Incorporated. It's Mike. Where were the cars racing last week?
Last week they were racing in Fontana at the Auto Club Fontana Motor Speedway for the Pala Casino 400. Rich, this is the last time we will see the cars going around the track in that configuration.
That's right, because I guess due to some land development, the 2 mile track is going to be torn down for some future development in the area, but they're still going to rebuild a racetrack on the site. It's just going to be smaller. Did they say? I couldn't remember from the broadcast that said it's just going to be like a 1/4 mile. Was it a 1/4 mile? They say they were just doing a 1/2 mile track. But we won't be going to Fontana for a little while.
Yeah, it's going to be like a 3-year development, and so the new Fontana. Man, we're not gonna see it until 2026.
Yeah, so who knows how many tracks are going to be, how many new tracks we could have by the time that comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah, the story I'm seeing just seems they planned short track and truck trailer parking. Doesn't necessarily say how much, what exactly is going to be on the site for a NASCAR pick. But I guess it's a Dallas-based industrial developer, Hillwood, which was founded by Ross Perot Jr., announced in 2020 that they would sell the Fontana facility and other holdings as it seeks to find new revenue streams and better utilize its massive land holdings across the United States.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this. We're seeing it across the country, though. We're seeing tracks shut down. We're gonna stay in the racing realm, but not necessarily talk NASCAR for just a second as we talk about this. Let's give the people the rundown of what happened. Then we'll go into this week, and then we'll go into the Mikey's corner as we let me slightly rant about NASCAR or about racetrack development. So, Rich,
Gotcha.
At the race, you picked Kyle Busch. It was a pretty good pick, Rich. Really good.
It was a great pick.
As he finished first, giving you 2 points for the week, bringing you up to 3, which means you've swept me. You've had 2 wins, and one of them was a picking the winner. I picked Kyle Larson. He ended at 29th. So
yeah, they were exhibition wins, but I also won the Coliseum and the Rolex 24.
You did.
So
you are on a hot streak.
Kyle Larson finished 29th, had some electrical issues, and it was almost looking like he wasn't going to get back out on the track. But 16 laps later, they fixed the electrical issue, threw him back out there, and due to other wrecks, I think he got to be only like 14 or 15 laps down by the end of the race.
Something like that, yeah.
So he came in at 29th. A rough pick. On the fantasy side, Mike, let's give our weekly shout-outs for that.
Wait, I went to the poll question. I had it up
I got it.
ago.
All right, for the Auto Club, our winner for the week was the Funk House, coming in at 208. Mike, you came in second with 184, and I was back in 5th place with 138.
Wow.
The overall standings. Mike, you are leading with 351 points. The Funk House is second with 329. I'm third with 254. Dupo 24 is coming in 4th with 238. Jenna Beans is up to 5th with 231. Jeffrey the Stroop is in 6th with 221. And Jordan the Supus is bringing up the rear with 158 points.
Remember to
So,
get those picks in today as they are racing tomorrow.
well, also, Mike, if you've set your picks earlier, there was a change to the NASCAR lineup, to the starting lineup for the Pennzoil 400, as it was announced that Chase Elliott will be sitting this race out with a leg injury that he suffered due to a skiing accident. So make sure that your lineups don't include Chase Elliott, or else you'll be getting 0 points. And also make sure to check that he was actually in the featured drivers lineup for bonus points and has been replaced by Christopher Bell. So make sure to update that pick as well, so you have a chance at 10 bonus points on Fantasy NASCAR. All right, Mike. So Pennzoil 400. So the cars are going south to Las Vegas from Fontana, and I've got the honor since my driver finished higher than yours, and I'm gonna go with Ross Chastain.
Yeah, I like that pick. Honestly, he might have been who I would have picked if it wasn't for you picking him. So I'm going to take Martin Truex Jr.
I like that pick too. Martin did pretty well last week, and he's got a good track record at Vegas as well.
Yeah.
But those boys over at Trackhouse are doing really well this year. So, and it's my wife's favorite driver, so it's always fun to have a common driver in common of who we're wanting to see win the race when we're watching it together.
Yeah, I always like that. It's nice for that, and Vegas will be a fun track. It's a pretty. It's another. I think it's a mile and a half tri-oval. Gonna be fast. Gonna be fun. The Vegas area is always fun. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. So back to the topic at hand. Fontana Speedway is shrinking. Now, here's the problem I have. We all know that having houses around a track is never gonna work well. The noise level that creates is ridiculous. And you'd think, oh, but you moved in. Like, you knew that you were moving in next to a track. We have had the amount of tracks that are closing across the country right this last year is amazing. And a lot of it has to do with development, but some of it just is, people aren't going out. Rich, you live, 5 blocks from a racetrack? When you go outside, how often, on a Friday night, I think is when they run?
Yeah, they normally run on Friday nights. I don't know how many times that we've heard car races go around, and the wife and I think, man, we really need to go to a race one of these days. You know how many races that we've been to since we've lived in this house, which has been probably about, 4 years now? Probably? Three and a half, maybe 4 years.
Let's say you've done. No, it's got to be longer than that because we've lived up here 3.5, 4 years.
So let's just say it's 4. Let's just say it's 4 years.
Okay.
How many races have I been to at the fairgrounds?
2.
1. One race.
You got to get over there
because we've gotten. I know I got to get over there more. It's fun. We had a great time going and seeing the motorcycle races.
I was just gonna say
with her father-in-law.
If you were to watch that, would that be something? If it was on TV, that you would actually watch on TV? If you had the choice.
I don't know if it would have been like the amateur racing, but
when you get there, how much of a difference is it?
It is. It's a big difference. It'd be fun to see. I know one of the businesses that sponsors a car, QC Autoplex or QC Jeeps.
Yeah.
My buddy Scott Wolf's business sponsors one of the cars.
Yeah,
every week goes out there.
It is one of those things that I think if you have a track near you, go out and support them. I'm not saying you got to go out every week. I'm not even saying go out once a month, but try to get out there. The same way that you want to get down. Rich, how often do you try to get down to the river band that's in a year?
Maybe 2 or 3 times a year, if that. I mean, and most of that's on free ticket night, where somehow, some way, I'm getting a free ticket.
See,
But just going down there to go to a game, not too often, not as often as I'd like to.
you should. And these are things like it, and where you're at, it's fairly inexpensive. Like, go to your local tracks. Go support your local sports. Heck, if all you have is a local high school team, go support your local high school team. Those kids need supporters too. We'll talk about that a little bit more later as I reveal some news later in the show. But let's move on from racing. But go support your local tracks. Rich.
But yeah, I mean that's probably one of the reasons why Kentucky and Chicago aren't on the NASCAR circuits, or even on the Xfinity or Truck Series.
Yeah,
nobody came to the races.
It was one of those things that, yeah, I'm sad to see it happen, but it makes sense. So, okay,
All right,
Rich, this has been the NASCAR Corner, presented as always by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, 5th Avenue, Moline, or on their eBay store. Rich, let's keep making left turns as we get to talk about baseball.
that's right. The Cubs spring training, they've had some games, and
they've had quite a few games.
history was kind of made last night, Mike. Did you hear what happened?
I did not.
7 pitchers combined to pitch a no-hitter last night's spring training game. I know that it kind of seems like combined no-hitters aren't no-hitters, but it's still remarkable.
Do I have to say
It's
get
not
off
the
my
same when
lawn?
it's one player.
Do I have to just come out and say get off my lawn? Like, I mean, I
That's
suppose it's
fine.
cool, but man, I mean, the whole purpose of spring training, especially in spring training, and this is why I don't have a problem with it in spring training. You are trying to get as many guys, as many reps as you can to figure out if they're going to fit in your team. That's what spring training is. And so to do that, I'm okay with it. The hard part for me is we have like 3-4 games in a day. They're splitting the team up and they're going different ways, and you have your high team and your low team and your loop-de-loo team. Like, I've seen 2 or 3 games. I've seen 2 games going at once from the Cubs. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, because you split the squad and send them out somewhere else. That's one of the benefits of being in Arizona, because every team is within like a 20-mile radius of each other.
Yep.
All in the Phoenix Metroplex.
Yeah, and I'm okay with it. It's just one of those things that I'm kind of bummed about, but it's hard to watch. But one of these days we're going out to spring training, Rich. When we're not
I'd
having
love
a
to
baby,
do it one of these days.
or my wife is okay with me taking a week off to go down to spring training for a week.
Yeah, and another spring training in oddity. Did you hear what happened with the Pirates and the Orioles?
I did. I love it. This is one of my favorite things about spring training.
Yes. So the game by traditional baseball rules, I believe the home team was the Pirates, or I could have it flipped.
Yep.
They chose the managers talked and agreed before the inning, regardless of what happens, we want to play the bottom of the ninth so that we can throw this pitcher in and get him in inning work. So the managers agreed. But the away team was ahead.
The home team was ahead.
The home team was ahead.
Yep.
Didn't produce. They shut out. They secured the victory without having the bat. Umpires walked off the field. They're done.
Yep.
So they played the bottom of the ninth inning with no umpires. Catcher was calling balls and strikes.
Like a good old-fashioned Sandlot game.
Yeah.
But And then finally, I think you can don me Nostradamus. I called it. I made a prediction. It came true. I'm kidding, by the way. I don't need to be called. That's a terrible name to be called. But I made a prediction. Yeah. It came true.
Yeah,
Rich.
The Twins and the Red Sox.
Yeah, Twins.
The Red Sox.
Go for it, Rich.
Yeah, sorry. The Red Sox were fielding one of the predominantly pole-heavy hitters. Joey Gallo was up at bat.
Yep.
They threw their left fielder into that left center, into that shallow right center field spot where traditionally they would deploy the shortstop or second baseman when the shift was allowed, and it went through. They couldn't call that a rule violation because all the infielders were on the dirt.
Yep. Wait, isn't that exactly what I said, would happen?
You did. They vacate left field.
I had this discussion at work early in the week this week, and I was explaining that the reason that they put that shift in place is because they have stats. They have stats, and they know that in 0.2 or in 2% of your at bats, you're going to hit to that left side. And so that's why they were doing the shift. Now, they still have the stats, and they could say, well, this guy, when he hits to the left, he hits bloopers, or he hits wherever you hit it. They have those exact stats. So they can be like, hey, we're going to put our left fielder here, and your center fielder is going to be he'll be able to cover much of left field. It's not going to be that big of a deal. You have your third baseman back to run out for shallow bloopers, and you have your center fielder covering deep and deep center. There's no reason. I mean, they still have the stats. They know what's going on. So,
yep. So they're willing to give up. They're willing to let a single, what might have been a single, if they played a traditional outfield and he goes the opposite way, they're willing to turn a single maybe into a double.
Yeah.
Instead of letting him to have a better chance of just getting him out altogether by putting an extra fielder for a left-handed hitter out in right field.
Yep. We predicted this. I predicted it weeks ago. It happened. That's the new shift. Until the MLB says you have to have.
No, the outfielders have to
be in
then
position.
You're probably going to see like a pie chart out in the outfield.
Right.
This is the you got a center fielder, right fielder, left fielder. You got to stay within these boundaries.
Yeah. Until that happens, this shift is going to continue. By the way, when that happens, you know what's going to happen? You're going to put your second baseman in closer to you're going to put your second baseman on the bag and your shortstop on the bag and your second baseman halfway to first. And you're going to have your right fielder in tight, and you're going to have your center fielder as far to the right as you can, and he'll just run it, because if it's deep enough, if it's that far deep, he'll have some time to get under it. The shift isn't going to go away just because they made the shift rule.
Exactly. Hitters need to learn again to hit to all fields. It isn't all about the all or nothing home run or hard hit balls.
Yep.
Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs would just have a heyday if you played a shift against them. You probably wouldn't, because they knew how to hit the all fields.
You put a shift against Wade Boggs, you know what he's going to do? He's going to hit the ball at somebody's face. He's going to, that guy he'd tell you stand somewhere. He did the Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Stand right here, put your glove up. I'll get it to you. Tony Gwynn had a thing to where it was,
you knew he could tell you where he was going to hit the ball, put the ball before he was going to go, and if the fielder wasn't going to get there,
Right.
the Tony Gwynn Hall, he was going to get the ball to a certain spot on the infield. That was his goal.
And if you
'Cause he
tried
knew
to
a fielder
shift,
couldn't get there.
if you tried to shift the fielder to there, he'd put it in the other hole.
Mhm.
There wasn't a hole Tony Gwynn couldn't hit through, and you were never gonna like. That's why. Go back to fundamentals. Home runs are great. They're fun. By the way, well, I mean, if you have the steroid, if back in the steroid era, it wasn't about only hitting home runs. Yes, home runs happened, but that's because people were using so many drugs. Man, yeah, let's get off that. Anyway,
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, right now it's all about exit velocity and launch angles and
yep,
bat to barrel. So I mean, just focus more on bat to barrel, and if you got to adjust your stance so you can hit it the other way easier to beat the shift, do that.
yeah, yeah. I don't.
Oh, well, so but that's that. It's probably never going to change. Even if, like you're saying, Mike, if they find a way to stop that rule next year, they'll find another way to exploit it and have a shift where they can maximize their ability to get an out.
Yep.
All right, Mike. So this week with baseball, we're talking about what we're hoping to see from the Cubs for 2024.
Man, I'm cautiously optimistic.
So am I.
I look at the lineup that they've put in place, and I say they got a good team. They have a good team, at least defensively and even offensively. But they still have the biggest problems the Cubs have had since I've been born. They've only solved that problem once. That was 2016. I would argue 2015 too. Pitching.
Well, really, the pitching staff really didn't start to taper off where you were kind of scratching your head wondering, ooh, I don't know about this team. Really, I mean, you could even say 17 we had a good pitching staff.
Yep.
18 we had a good pitching staff. It was like that 19, 20, 21 is when the guys started getting older. And the 2016 and 8 to 16, the 15 through 17 guys that were still on the team were starting to get long in the tooth.
Yep. And but aside from those years, we've never had great pitching. It's always been.
Well, no, you had the wild card. You had Lou Pinella's team where you had Pryor, Wood, and Zambrano, and
yeah,
that was a really good starting rotation.
The problem
They all
there
just couldn't
was
stay healthy.
the problem. Yeah, exactly. Or the mental health of Carlos Zambrano.
Yeah.
You didn't know legitimately, if he was playing in this day and age, he would have had a counselor on the bench to talk to him between innings. That man needed help. Hopefully he's gotten it since. But legitimately,
But I don't know. I mean, there's potential with this starting rotation.
they have some great potential.
Hayden Wisnowski, Justin Steele,
Yeah.
Javier Assad looked good last year. Adrian Simpson showed some flashes. Are those guys that you're going to depend with? Yeah, they could really develop into an ace. No, probably not.
Who
but
is our
they
ace?
Could use. I think right now they have Marcus Stroman listed as the ace, and that's
Okay.
a guy I'm more comfortable seeing as more of a number 2 or 3 guy.
Yeah.
And I don't see Steele or Wisnowski as being probably more around a guy that you'd want to have as your number 3 in a rotation.
Here's the problem I have with all of this. Just to be honest with you. If those are your key guys, what does it look like? Like, are we wasting the youth that is our offense and defense aside from the pitcher? Are we wasting these guys' times? If we're not
I would say not yet because those guys that you're thinking, oh, are we wasting the younger guys' time? Those guys are still in double and triple A.
I our starting lineup though still looks good. Like
It looks decent. It looks like it could be better.
our starting lineup deserves better pitching. True or false?
I'd say true with that.
Our starting pitching is going to cost us 30 games this year. I'm going to say it. If you play 182 games, 60 games you're going to win, 60 games you're going to lose. It's those other 60 games that you're going to, like, you're guaranteed to win 60, you're guaranteed to lose 60 of them. So now you're down to 60 games. And if we're going to lose 30 of them because of pitching, that doesn't leave us a margin of error for much.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing with this rotation, with the guys that are scheduled to be in the rotation, and with guys that are slated to be long men in the bullpen, but were starting pitchers last year for us, I almost wonder if it would be best for the Cubs to play Rays baseball, to where you put a pitcher out there and tell him, all right, give me 4 innings.
If that,
Regardless of how you're doing, give me 4 innings, and then we're going to turn it over to this guy and have him give us 3 or 4 innings.
if that's what the Cubs are doing, I actually think that we actually have a decent bullpen for that.
Yeah, they've got a lot of guys that are fighting for a spot in the rotation where they've already outlined that, you know what, if they don't make the rotation, they're going to be our long men out of the bullpen.
So I could be okay with that. I could be okay with I could even be okay if we did a starter or
Had an opener.
A longman, a second longman, and a closer. I'm okay with that even.
And right now, the Cubs really don't have a designated guy that's slated to where you can point your finger and say, yep, he's going to be our closer this year.
Yeah. So
they really don't even have that. So a lot of the bullpen is up in the air as far as who's going to fill which roles, and that could also play a game in how you can win baseball games if you don't have set defined roles.
Well, and that's the key there. That's for me the biggest thing in all of this. As you and I talking about it, the biggest thing in all of it is first, what we think of when what most people think of when they think of how you talk about your pitching, what you're doing with your pitching that day. Most people think you look at your starter. That's not how you do it. You actually work backwards. You look at your closer. And if you don't have a defined closer, then you don't have a guy. You can't have a guy designed to be the setup man. You can't have a long reliever or a middle reliever or whatever. You don't have one of those, which means your starter is expected to go longer, which with what Tampa Bay baseball tells us, what Rays baseball tells us, is that after the second time through the order, you're in some danger of having some trouble.
Yep, because they've seen your stuff, so it's time to go to the bullpen and start the train up of a new pitcher every single inning.
And we don't have that right now. Until you have somebody that can be designated as you're our closer. Because the thing about a closer is the closer has to be ready to go every night and pitch 1 inning. 1 shutout inning, period. Lock down, close out, go get in line for the train because he's not letting anything change. You got to have that guy. And if you don't have that guy, then setting up for that guy gets extremely difficult. So that's the biggest thing we need. We need to find a closer. By the way, what gave us the World Series win?
Getting Aroldis Chapman at the trade deadline.
One of the best closers we've seen in our generation.
At the time of the acquisition, yes. Great closer. Would we have won that Game 7 without him? Probably not.
Nope.
Pitched 3 innings.
Yep.
Gave up the one run that tied the game, but he kept us in that game and put us in a position to win.
Yeah.
Could we have won it in 9 innings if Madden had gone to somebody else in the ninth inning, noticing he was tiring?
Maybe.
Maybe. But maybe that pitcher, like the Mike Montgomery that pitched the extra inning, maybe he's the one that instead of he gives up 2 runs instead of 1 run, and Cleveland's the World Series champion, and we're not.
We're
And the
not.
Cubs are still stuck in this turmoil of haven't won a championship in over 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Closers are where it's at. They're hard breed to find, and that's right now where we are at. We're missing a closer. That's our biggest hole. But overall, our offense, our bases, and our position players all look great. I'm happy with all of them. I mean, again, we don't have Javi Baez, and we don't have the greatest shortstop that we've seen in since the 90s Yankees. I hate saying it. I don't want to admit it, but we don't. And we don't have the best catcher that we've seen, I would argue, in my lifetime.
I think Pudge Rodriguez was really good, probably better than Wilson Contreras.
You bring up Pudge.
Rodriguez.
Yeah. Okay, but one of the top 3?
Yeah, I think I can at least put Contreras in a top 5 if I'm trying to come up with other catchers that have been just as good, and not just that have been equally as good with the glove and with the bat.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of potential, and if this doesn't work out, you got guys like Hosmer and Bellinger.
Yep.
And Happ on 1-year contract. So if it doesn't work out, or if the guys down in the minor leagues are just crushing it, and you need to clear space to get them some playing time, either next year or at the trade deadline, if things aren't going well, or you want to clear playing time for those guys, you got 3 main guys on 1-year deals, and our third baseman, which could be a platoon between Edwin Rios and Zach McKitt. Nick Madrigal, I think it is, is going to be on 1-year deals too. So there could be space to clear out some room for the young guys.
But we still have cap room.
You still got some cap room,
We still have room. And, by the way, the Ricketts family, maybe they're saying it publicly, and in private they're saying, hey, we're going to pay you. You're getting us some money. You're taking the heat right now. But the Ricketts have publicly said, we're opening it up, spend. That's been put out there.
And they kind of did spend bringing in Dansby Swanson.
Yeah.
Good. He's won a couple of Gold Gloves. He's hit 20 to 25 home runs a year. I think you'll be pleasant. I think you might be surprised that he probably could, on the offensive side. It wouldn't surprise me if he had better offensive numbers than Javier Baez.
Yeah,
with just as much defense, with defense just as good.
I don't know if I agree with the full defense.
Okay,
he calls a good game.
I don't know.
He calls a good game. So yeah. Okay. So Rich, hopes high, low, tempered.
I'm going to go tempered.
Okay. I'm actually going to go slightly high. I think this is one of those years that we're... Because, again, like you said, we have all these guys on 1-year deals. So I do see us few weeks into the season starting to rotate those. This is why I think we haven't spent the money to lock down our entire 25-man roster. But, and this is the big but, I think what their plan is once you hit, 3 weeks into the season that you can start rotating those guys out without hitting that 1-year penalty or whatever it is.
I think so.
Well, you're going to start seeing, because we're at that point where all of those guys that we've been building our franchise, our long-term franchise on, are starting to get to a point where we can start pulling them up. And so you're going to see a lot of the guys in AAA that the Iowa Cubs, a lot of those guys could be on a roster in the major leagues. Maybe not everyday starters, but they could. A lot of the guys in the Iowa Cubs could make rosters in the MLB. By the way, let's move down to double A. A lot of those guys, most of those guys, could be on AAA teams anywhere in the country. You're going to see our AAA team start rotating up as early as we can without taking penalties to give them some looks and to be like, to get the knowledge. That's a lot of what we're doing in spring training. That's a lot of what you do in spring training. The problem is other guys are doing that, so you're still playing your AAA versus your AAA. Look for this season to be a year where our lineup isn't super consistent throughout the year. Why? Because we are testing our AAA guys to finally make decisions on these guys to say, okay, I'm at high hopes because of that, and because when push comes to shove, our day one starters are guys that legitimately could play in the playoffs. I'm going to say we are going to be around, if not slightly above 500 this year.
Yeah, I think I can see a 500. I don't know if I agree with that. You're going to see 3 weeks or within a month of the season start seeing. I think you could hear talk or rumors about, is it time to bring up Brennan Davis or Pete Crow Armstrong? I think those are the two that I remember off the top of my head. But the thing is, both those guys are outfielders.
Yeah.
Where do we have most of our good big name players in the outfield?
Yeah.
Cody Bellinger, Ian Happ.
1 year.
Yeah, they're on expiring contracts, and Seiya Suzuki is the only one he's injured, but right now he's got what, 3 or 4 years left in his contract. So
yeah.
You know he's not going to go anywhere.
The only big one that I again is Happ, one of those guys. For me, Happ is one of the guys, and I like Happ. I have always liked Happ, but he's one of those guys that always felt like a second-tier player to me. I think he's good. I don't know that he is a
cornerstone face of the franchise type player.
Exactly. He's not one of the guys
and I get that too.
And it's he has great skills, but he also has enough of weaknesses that I hope when it comes time for contract renegotiation with him, there's no reason to give him big name money. He is not a big name guy, and he's not a guy. I will agree he's an everyday starter in most of the league, but I don't know that he's a everyday starter for teams that are winning the World Series or are in NL for the championship games up. So championship games and World Series, I don't know that he could be an everyday starter on any of those teams.
I don't think he's a frontline cornerstone player. He's a key contributor.
Yep.
But if it came down to locking him up to a deal, or giving a chance for Pete Crow Armstrong, Anderson Chirino, Brennan Davis, that's the problem right now.
Bring up Brendan.
The Cubs, all of their hot prospects that are on the cups of me, these guys could make it to the major leagues this year, maybe toward the end of the year after the trade deadline. They all play the outfield.
Yeah. Now, the thing with Ian,
like when Happ came up, there was talk, he can play second base.
Yeah.
They've tried him at first base. So I don't know, do you shift one of the DH hole? Could be something that opens up for one of those guys, but right now I think I wouldn't be upset as I was when Schwarber and Bryant and Rizzo walked out the door if the Cubs decided to let Happ walk because they had other guys that can come in behind him and replace him.
Would you even be as upset as you were? I'm saying you, not me, because we know that the anger level of losing Javi and losing Wilson Contreras. But would you be even as upset as you were with Javi? Because you weren't.
No, I
Right.
saw the writing on the wall. I think I was starting to get tired of Javi a little bit with the whole low batting average, a lot of flyouts and strikeouts. The flyouts and the strikeouts didn't outweigh the amazing glove work for me.
Yeah.
And look at what he did in Detroit when he left Chicago. Not too good.
Yep. Okay, so folks,
So-
next week we are going to give you the over/under, both our over/under and the season, and what the over/under is by when we're going to pick. Rich, what website are we going to use for that?
You know what, Mike? Since we're both in the Quad Cities, so let's use the sports book, our local sports book, Elite.
Okay,
Sportsbook.
we'll use
That's
Elite
what we've
Sportsbook.
used for other.
You are in the Quad Cities. I am not. So
I know.
We will use
Or okay. You have an Iowa casino there in Emmitsburg.
Elite's fine.
What-
Elite's fine.
what-
Let's use Elite. We'll use Elite
Okay.
Sportsbook. So we're gonna go with Elite Sportsbook over under for next week. We'll kind of talk whether we agree with that, and go through that. The week after, we're going to start giving you our division winners, and then we're going to give you our NLCS, ALCS, World Series predictions, and then finally, the last week of the year, we will give you our World Series prediction and our final prediction,
Yep.
our first prediction of the Weekly's Cubs record. So look forward for that for the next month. Now, real quick, because we're at 51 minutes, this week, right now going on is the NFL Combine. Rich, the Rules Committee met. They are debating, and apparently this is a thing. They are debating the push, making a push rule, i.e., the way that the Philadelphia Eagles made it to the Super Bowl. They're going to be debating that and whether or not that's an acceptable play still. Do you like?
I can go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
I just was going to say, do you like the? Do you think it should be kept, or do you think it should be kicked by the wayside?
I want to see what their interpretation of the full rule is, because I mean, how is that? It's like the push rule, is that borderline the down by contact when both players are wrapped up, but he's still on his feet and he's still moving, and they sort of push him across the end zone like a rugby player.
Yep.
How much of that could they just whistle the play dead? Nope, down by forward progress. He's not along the goal line yet.
Yep.
Second down or third down. Up, it's fourth down. He was down by contact for that.
The hard part is, as Bears fans, we never have an offensive line that can provide enough of a wall, and we don't have good pushers. So this will never work for the Bears. So
We do have a good running quarterback, though, in Justin Fields.
We do. But he's better in the open fields rather than in a scrum. Yeah, the hard part is, if you look at old, and I mean like the initial ages of football, comes from rugby. It looks like rugby. I think you got to let it go. I don't see anything wrong with it.
I don't know, but you got to almost kind of be consistent with your rules. How? Because if that same play was done with it not being pushed for a first down, if it didn't involve them going with a first down, if that's not within like the 2-yard line, that could be whistled for down by contact. He was wrapped up and not moving anywhere without the assistance of somebody else. So that'd be a down by contact.
Yep. And
anywhere else on the field besides within the red zone.
By the way, I just saw a replay of the last, 30 seconds of the helmet catch game with the New England Patriots that kept them from winning having a perfect season. By some of today's standards, they probably like the way that that Eli Manning was on that helmet catch, the way he was wrapped up and handled. They probably would have called the game dead. But yet, in the same position, we let the running backs grab the quarterback and just start pushing. I think my problem is
what comes out of this.
The inconsistency. So, the other big thing, Rich and I don't have setups that we can show you our 40-yard dash. Besides that, there's like 100 feet of snow outside. Yeah. And where there's not snow, there's sand and salt. So I couldn't do a 40-yard dash. Let's just face it. I couldn't do a 40-yard dash. So what we can participate in is our measurements. Rich, you found out you're tall enough to be you're almost tall enough to be a quarterback in the NFL.
I guess so. The official measurements came out of Bryce Young, the guy that's projected to be the #1 overall pick. 5'10" and 1/8 of an inch.
Wow.
Weight 205, I think it was.
Well, I'm taller than him.
I'm somewhere between the 5'9", 5'10", and when I weighed myself this morning, I came in at 202.
Yeah, I'm right around 6 foot, and
I'm tall enough.
I'm right around 6 foot, and I'm pushing 280. So I'm a little bit too fat to be a quarterback. But the other measurement that you need to be a quarterback, your hand size. So
right.
The hand size measurement is from tip of the thumb to the tip of the pinky. Rich, we both measured today.
We did.
The average quarterback in the NFL, 7.9. Rich?
9.7.
Or 9.7. 9.7. Rich, your hand size, please.
7 1/4.
That's a little small
Yeah,
to be a
little
quarterback.
small. Yeah, no.
9.5. So, okay. And then let's do some quick hits. First, we need to say congratulations to the Esterville esports team in their Rocket League season. Being the going to state this week, it didn't turn out as they wanted, but good on them for getting there. With that, I have been offered and have accepted being the esports, the Okoboji esports head coach for the Mario Kart season.
Okay. So will you have to? So is this only for the Mario Kart season, to where you'd have to, or are you the esports coach all around?
Currently, it is just for the the Mario Kart season. We are already talking about maybe expanding the esports
Okay.
to include more matches and more events and seasons that we might participate in. So as of right now, it is just for this season, depending on how it goes. And so hopefully that all goes well, and we'll see what next year brings. So yeah, excited for that. Also, Rich, what month are we in?
Mike, we are in March.
Wait, that means it's time to get mad.
That's right, it is, and it's time for me to start caring about NCAA basketball, kind of for both of us.
Yeah.
Start caring about NCAA basketball, as March Madness will be starting in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Selection Sunday is next Sunday on the 12th, and you'll see the first 4 games of March Madness, the play-in games, on March 14th and 15th. So, Mike,
in our
you
show
went ahead and have
description,
already...
description, we have the link to join our fantasy or our tournament pick'em. Put a bracket together, slide it into that. Let us join in. You will get a shout out on the show, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, we get some good numbers in this year, and everything goes well. Rich, are you ready for the season? I know you got started, and Alicia has already accepted the invite. We're waiting on a few more that we expect to be there, and hopefully many more of you will join. So click that link down there if you want to join that. But we'll get into other links and everything else that's in there later. Anything else?
And it's still not too late to join us for Fantasy NASCAR as well. We're
Yep.
only 2 races in.
Yep.
Still plenty of time to join in the fun. And
Yeah,
'cause you get a shout out.
last year I was like 5 whole races behind at the end of the season. So, I mean, you could have skipped 5 races and you could have beat me still. So, okay.
All right.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We are at our 1 hour mark. Normally we try to end the show around now, but we have one big thing to talk about. That's going to be the Masked Singer. We are going to give spoilers. We are a spoiler show when it comes to the Masked Singer at the end of the week. If you don't care about the Masked Singer, bye. See you. We appreciate you. If you do care and you haven't watched this week's episode, please turn it off. We don't want to spoil it for you, but we're going to. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, Rich.
All right, Mike. So this week we had the California Roll, the return of Medusa, and the polar bear.
Yeah, the polar bear. So the Medusa came out first, sang amazingly. That girl can sing.
Yeah.
Quite impressed. Then the polar bear comes out. And you know what? I told my wife, this is a rapper or DJ of some sort. His singing sucks. But you know what? When he was doing his hype stuff, he did great. So I'm like, it's one of these type guys. But I couldn't figure out who it was.
That's right. And with no surprise whatsoever, it was the legendary Grandmaster Funk.
Yeah.
DJ
No,
and
Grandmaster Flash,
pioneer
not
of
Funk. Flash.
Oh, Flash. Okay, Grandmaster Flash,
Big difference.
legendary DJ that pioneered scratching.
Yep. Totally amazing. It was great to hear him bust out on the turntables after everybody went and let go. And I loved it. And then the California Rolls. I have an idea.
Okay, Mike.
Off
who
the
you think
clue
it is?
package. Off of I actually had 2 ideas. I misled you a little bit earlier. Off the clue package, I was listening, and the way that there were 5 different people, and the way they were joking around, I said, could this be the cast of Friends? It was New York night.
Okay.
It was New York night. They made lots of Friends references. At first, I thought it was a friend. Then then I started getting this feeling, and then they started singing. And in the middle of singing, I said, I think this is the Pentatonics. And I was like, I don't hear it. And then Jenny McCarthy comes up, and she says, I think this is the Pentatonics. My wife's like, that's impressive. I didn't think so, but she said it, and she's pretty good. That's kind of impressive. And then the battle happened. Man, I think that's been one of the best battles we've seen to date, bar none, any season in the Masked Singer. And in the middle of that, my wife says, I think you're right.
Yeah, the battle for me is what saved the California Roll. I really didn't come away very impressed with their initial number, and was like, all right, we know in advance they're ringing the bell, which was my second issue with this episode. Not that they rang the bell, it's that they teased that the bell was more than likely going to be rung that episode.
Oh no, we all knew it was going to be rung because it's the last of this group, so they only get to use it once per group.
I wouldn't have liked to have I would not have liked. I didn't want to see that in the. I didn't want to see that in the teaser episodes coming up. I would have rather seen the whole. I think I would have been fine with when in the lead up to them to Nicole running to the bell to ring it, going with the. Should I ring it? Should I ring it? And then cut it right there. Don't show her running toward the bell with the hammer where you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But by all means, where the first performance, knowing that the bell was going to be used, it was almost like, man, I wish they would have saved Debbie Gibson or Sarah Miller instead of saving it for what I thought was going to be the California roll. But the battle round changed my mind. And now I can see that, yep, they made the right decision to save
It also
Medusa,
it also
who
leads up to
lost
the
the battle.
biggest problem my wife has with this show and their new format.
Hmm.
Medusa has sang against how many people?
6.
Yep.
Yeah, 6.
How many people has the California roll had to go against?
2. I don't like the new format either, but maybe that's how they're getting bigger name stars to come and do the show, because maybe they only know, all right, I'm only going to be around for 1 week. I can handle 1 week of this.
I'm okay with the
yours.
1 week, but Medusa should automatically have, like, honestly, the producers are the one that's making the decision who goes and who stays and
Oh yeah.
who wins the battles and all that. They make those decisions. It's
Yeah,
not-
because come on, when you show the like the crowd of like voting on their phones, who the heck would have, out of all those 3 performances, whoever thought the polar bear was my
Oh, yeah.
favorite performance?
None of them.
It's like, come on.
No. But what I will say is let Medusa win the battle and save the California roll.
Mm.
Like, come on now.
Yeah,
Medusa
for me, I
deserves
still-
to go to the final 4 or whatever. Yeah, it's going to be the final 4.
Yeah,
but-
for me, I'd still like to see the panel come out and say who they're voting for after the battle,
Yep.
to see what happens if there's a tie when they don't have a 5th panelist.
I
What
think.
happens?
By the way, if it goes to a 5th, I mean, it should go down
Who's the mystery 5th panelist? Is it, because you never see Nick pull out a phone?
I think
to-
it's got to
vote?
be Nick. I think Nick has to be. But again, it's not. It's the producers that say
I
this
know.
is who's winning, and that's fine.
Exactly.
But I still love the show. It's still great fun.
Yeah, still love it.
But anyway, so that was our little bit of Masked Singer spoiler. I agree that Medusa needed to stay. We'll see what happens. We'll see how that showdown goes, and hopefully, we see her in the final 4 even. But she's gonna have to sing at least against more people coming up.
The other people that got saved. So you're not going to see her next week. It's going to be 3 brand new singers as it's
Yep.
going into Group B
Yep.
next week.
Okay.
All right, Mike. So if they're watching us here on Facebook or on YouTube, and they kind of want to just hear the audio side of us and take us anywhere, wherever they go, where can they find us, Mike?
Just about anywhere they want. We are on all major podcast platforms: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, along with dozens of others. Look for us wherever you find your podcast. We should be there. Rich, they're listening to us. You mentioned it, but they want to watch us, but don't want to get Facebook. Where should they watch us?
Look us up on YouTube, where you can see the recording of it. And also, I mean, if you're listening to us on podcast and you want to see what we look like, see what our recording setups look like, look us up on the YouTube.
And finally, if you want to participate in our poll questions or get any notifications about when we go live, like our page on Facebook, our Balls and Sticks page, or look us up on Fans of Balls and Sticks. Either one of those, we go live on both, and we do. And our poll question is always on the Fans page. Once again, this week's poll question, Rich.
Crazy Train versus Thunderstruck. All right, Mike, before we give our own personal shout-outs,
Yep.
did we have any reactions or comment shout-outs on the Facebook feed?
We did not. But
All
if you
right.
want to get those, join us while we're live. Like us, make a comment. If you make a comment that's pertinent to the conversation, we'll try to get it in during the conversation. Otherwise, you'll get a shout-out at the end of the show. Finally, Rich, it's time for our personal shout-outs. Who do you got this week?
I got to wish a happy anniversary to my parents. March 1st was their anniversary.
Wow. I have a whole bunch of stuff this week. First, on the 27th, my little brother turned 34. Wow. Getting old. He turned 34. on the 28th-ish. My niece didn't actually have a birthday, but she's been her birthday doesn't exist this year. She's a leap day baby. So happy birthday, Haley. Happy birthday, Jonathan. And not by in any order other than just the dates. On March 1st, my sister-in-law Jenna Hart also had her birthday. And then yesterday, I think it was yesterday, Jordan Stroop, who is Jordan the Supa, had his birthday. Happy birthday to all of you guys. It was a busy week for birthdays. Rich, what's it time to do?
Mike, let's go ahead and roll the outro.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.